the camping trip, when I got there, I I drove up to our campsite because my stepfather had been there for like 40 minutes already. He's like a psychopath. He he gets the car all packed and he's like, phew, he is off. He is speeding on the highway and everything like that. And I only drive about 5 miles higher than the speed limit. So if the speed limit is 55, I'm pretty much going 60. That's it. That's normal. Actually, that's slow. Like people are honking at me and stuff when I'm going 5 miles above the speed limit. And so he got there way before we did. I stopped off to get food also. I don't like to get to the campsite and I'm hungry. I'm not interested in making food as soon as I get there. After I've driven for an hour, I'm not interested in now setting up a stove and making food. I want that my food is set, ready to eat. I want to sit down on my camping chair and I want to eat. That's all I want to do. So we bought fried chicken and we got there and I was ready to just like chill, and then my stepfather was like, "Oh, did you check in at the office?" And I was like, "No, I thought you did that." And he was like, "No, I did, but you have to like register your car because your car is going to be the one that's staying here." And I was like, "Okay." So I went to the office, and as I was coming back from the office, I saw a lady who was like on the grass with all her stuff on the side of the office, and I was like, "Oh." I was like, maybe the rest of her family, you know, maybe something happened. Like, that did kind of happen to us before, where we got to the campsite, but we got there like 2 hours before check in. So, check in is at 3, and we got there at like 1, because my stepfather had to leave to go to work. And, um, so we went there and we've been told before that it's not a big deal if you come before check-in time because check out is at 11. So there shouldn't be anybody at the site at that, like if you come at 1. But for some reason somebody had to stick up their butt the day that we went, and they were like adamant that nobody can get in to their campsite before 3. And I think we were camping for a full week that day. So we had a full week of stuff in both our cars. And my stepfather literally just dumped everything out that was in our car and he left. He had no other choice. He had to go to work. So he left and we were like trying to figure out a system where once it becomes 3 o'clock, I will take my car full of stuff. My mom would stay with their car full of stuff, like by the grass. I will unload it at our site. I would come back with my car. It was a whole drama. So I saw this lady and I thought perhaps she has a situation that's similar. So I rolled up next to her and I was like, "Do you need help?" And she was like in distress. She was like, "Yes, please." And I asked her where her site was. Does she need me to help her like transport her stuff? Because my car was empty pretty much. I was staying for 1 night, so everything I had was up in the middle seat and in the front seat. um my trunk was pretty much empty, so I was like, "I'm happy to help you, put your stuff in the trunk, and I'll just drive it to your spot." Because I mean the campsite is pretty small. Any campsite is going to be like within 2 minutes of driving. So I drove her to her site, and she wanted to like carry her suitcase. She was insistent that she wanted to walk. And I would just carry like the bigger items that she couldn't actually physically transport. So I was like, fine. I drove it to her site, and as I was unpacking it, I detected a very distinct smell, and I was like, I know this smell, and I was like, this is the homeless smell, and I was like, is this woman homeless? And I unpacked everything. I put it at her site, and then she showed up, and I looked at her face because I typically don't look at people in their face. And I looked at her face, and you could see that she was like distressed. That she had been through some stuff. She did look like like she was struggling kind of. And I was like, why would anybody come up here? I mean, it's a campsite. Yeah, that's what I know lots of people who are like in a car that would go to campsites because they're homeless. But a person in a tent up in Bear Mountain, I wouldn't think. I wouldn't have thought that that would be the situation, that anybody would do that. And so she had like a tent and she was like trying to live out her homeless situation at a campsite in Bear Mountain. That I can't like I told you, I woke up and I was sick from sleeping in the car overnight up there. I can't imagine. Like I can't imagine how difficult that is. You know, everybody's talking about like, oh, the government's giving them money, the government is blah 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 blah. I understand that is true, but I don't think it's as prevalent as people think. I felt so bad for this woman. When I came back home, I just couldn't stop thinking about her. Like cuz I felt like shit when I came back home. I was like sneezing. I was so happy to be back in my apartment with my heat and my child and I just like drank tea and I took a hot shower and I just can't imagine how difficult it is being out there just perpetually in a state of like struggle. I just it's one thing when you see it on TV and stuff, the whole migrants situation, but then when you see the people struggling, that's when you really kind of I think a lot of people need that. I think a lot of people need to see the struggle and then they will have a little bit of sympathy. I think a lot of people treat them like they're a problem, and yes, it is, the migrant situation is a problem, but they are not the problem. It's the people who are letting them in. It's such a sad situation. I keep thinking about it where I'm like, is she still up there? Should I don't know, call the office and ask and see if I can. I don't know. I just don't know. It's a terrible situation. Why don't you look people in their face? I think it makes people uncomfortable, right? If you look them like if you look at their face for more than like, a split couple of seconds. I don't know. I just unless you're like really familiar with the person, but if it's like a stranger, you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable like you're just staring at them in their in their face. It's more real when you see it for yourself. Yeah. Yeah. That made me like so man, these people are suffering so much. It's really I couldn't bring her back here though. Obviously not. I mean, squatters' rights are a huge problem in New York. Huge problem. After about 30 days, they have rights to stay there for years. It is one of the scariest things. And, good intentions can turn very, very bad. I've heard so many stories from people I know who let somebody live with them. And it turned out to be really, 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 really a terrible situation. I don't know. I hope things work out for her. I really do. Oh, we are not going camping this late in the season, though. Not again. Not again. Oh, man. I woke up feeling like a bus had ran me over. It was fun. It was a fun trip, but oof, boy. Yeah, but you helped enough. You can only do so much. It just made me feel like it's just so different where your mind can be at when you have a relief point. Like I was miserable when I woke up and when I was sneezing, when I was feeling sick, but I knew within 24 hours I was going to be at home after a hot shower in my bed. There's a relief point. I just don't know what kind of mental state you can be in when you don't know if a relief point is ever coming. That's I can imagine that's very, very tough. I've never actually been in that situation. I'm very privileged in that way. You never really think about it, but I am. I've never been you know, in a situation where I didn't have a place to find a hot meal and a hot bed. And I can't imagine how difficult that is.